All right, I think we are ready to start with our presentation. So I want to make sure everybody understands the idea that this is something that your friends, your classmates, your teammates thought was important for you. So when we created the Hall of Fame, one of the things that we said, and I also want to note that we have a committee of people working on this. So Coach Gritz is on the committee because no one knows more about ALA history than Gritz, having been there. And some of you were at the event last year, and it was mostly a kind of make fun of Gritz, things like that last year, and we're appreciative of that. But he's been invaluable on the committee because I've heard the stories, and I can look back, but he saw some of you play or experience that, and I did not. Our current athletic director, Dave Peter, Matt Hine, our track coach and football coach, Jade St. Germain, who coaches volleyball and basketball, are on the committee. And then we have a couple alums, Phil Bischoff, a 2001 graduate, and then Sarah Haig, who's not able to be with us because she decided to go to Scotland for a few weeks. Tough life. But I'm thankful that all of them on the committee have been really important as we looked at it, because, and we made this so that it's not us just pulling someone's name out of a hat or kind of guessing. We said we are not going to induct people unless somebody nominates them. So all of you are here today because somebody took the time to fill out a form or send me an email and make sure it's important to say that you belonged in the Hall of Fame. So we had about 12, 13 people we were choosing from this year, and getting the 6 of you here is awesome. We want you to know that there's a few different criteria. So obviously you can be an athlete, and it's not only what you do at ALA, but it could be your contributions after and what you did in college or your career as well. We have a spot for coaches. If you're an athlete, you have to be graduated 10 years out, basically, is our rule. So that at least puts you in your late 20s. Coaches can go in as soon as they retire and are gone. And then we also have a spot for what we call contributors. And that's somebody who has made a big difference in ALA athletics, but might not have gone to ALA or didn't teach there. And then the fourth category, and we haven't done any of this yet, but I can see in the next couple of years we will probably have that, what we call a team of distinction. So we would simply say that that team, that group of individuals together made a big impact on ALA. So that's our 4 categories, and all of that information is on our website. When we get done today, we'll post as much stuff as we can. We want to keep that all up to date so you know what's happening. All right, so I think without too much further introduction, because I don't think I've missed anything yet, let's get to talking about each of you. So the way it works is I'll give a few minutes, just kind of an intro overview of who they are, kind of their impact at ALA, and then I'll give the mic to each of you to come up and speak. First of all, after I call your name, if you want to come up, I'll give you your award, and then we'll get a picture, and then you can speak after that. If you're like me, you don't have to stand really close to the mic. But if you're a little more soft-spoken, you might want to lean into the mic a little bit more. But I think everybody can hear in the back okay. Nick was very gracious. He turned off his loud cooler back here, and that one only runs once in a while. So hopefully the sound should be good. All right, so our first nominee, or inductee, Callie Soli Costello. Callie's married to Matt, and they've been married for 7 years. She lives in Oklahoma City, which is because she went to Mid-America Nazarene University. And she was an amazing volleyball player at ALA, but I think when you look at some of the stuff on what happened when she was in college, just 4-year starter, captain, she's their all-time leader in career assists, and when I was on their website searching around, I don't think anyone will ever break her assist record as a setter. It's amazing what she did at Mid-America Nazarene. She's got a number of other honors, all Sooner Athletic Conference, and NAIA Champion of Character, Academic All-District. She was a double major in English and in Business Administration. So she was making an impact in college. And any of you know, if you play college anywhere, you're a good athlete. It does not matter where. I think sometimes high school kids think, oh, it's only this or it's only that. They are so naive. They have no idea what it's like to play in college anywhere. And so it's really amazing what she was able to do at that level. As far as her career at ALA, I was there. I watched her play. At the time when she was at ALA, it did not matter what sport we were in what was called the 2A Metro in those days. That was the toughest athletic league in the state in 2A because they took all of the private schools in Phoenix and they put us all together. So it was Valley Christian and Northwest Christian and Phoenix Christian and us and all these schools. We were about probably 160 at the time, and most of them were between 300 and 500. And there were, in volleyball especially, that was the glory days of those schools. So I did some research on this. So over the span when she was in high school playing, the state championship and the semifinals every year, 3 of the 4 semifinal teams were all teams from our region in those years. And we were playing some phenomenal competition. So the teams that she played on were really, really good, but you won't find them in state runner-ups or state champions because they had almost insurmountable odds. There were teams that were sending 2 or 3 or 4 girls to Division I out of our region off the same team. But I say that just to kind of put in perspective that, again, in her career, what she was able to accomplish. I remember watching her play, and Callie was totally in command of the game all the time. One of her teammates is sitting here at her table, and I know she would agree with me that it didn't matter what happened. Callie was communicating, she was making sure everybody was in the right spot, she was setting up her hitters, she just was an amazing volleyball leader and a volleyball player. You can see that 2007, she was first team All-Region. 2008, first team All-Region, Region Player of the Year. The team was the region champion. When she graduated, she was at the top of the list in a couple categories. Since then, we've had a few more pretty good volleyball players who came along, but she's still number 3 all-time in career assists and number 4 in aces. And again, when I look at someone who just said, I'm going to be great at this thing, Callie was great at that. She was a great student along that, and it just is just really fun to watch her play, and I'm excited to be able to have her today. So please welcome Callie Costello.
Quick correction, Mid-America Christian University.
What did I say? Mid-America Nazarene? Oh.
There is a Nazarene, that's in Kansas. I was in Oklahoma.
You do that.
That's okay. Well, first and foremost, I want to acknowledge and thank God for this. He's given me the talent, opportunities, and success I've had in volleyball, and none of it would be possible without him. I just want to give him all the glory and praise. So many blessings have come as a result of playing this sport, and I'm just so grateful. I've loved the game of volleyball as long as I can remember, but I don't think I ever dreamed it would have such a huge impact on my life. It's taken me to over 15 different states and is responsible for most, if not all, of my meaningful relationships outside of family. All of my closest friends have played volleyball with me either in high school, club, college, or are currently playing in a league with me right now. Volleyball is what brought me to Oklahoma, where I met my husband Matt and found my new home. Although we did have 1 or 2 classes together beforehand, Matt and I didn't connect until we started playing intramural volleyball together. I knew he had to be on my team after I saw how good he was at tryouts. So as a team captain, I used my first-round pick draft on him, and he's been stuck with me ever since. I could go on and on about the impact volleyball has had on my life, but I think you all get the picture, so I'll move on to my appreciations. First of all, a huge thank you to my parents. I definitely wouldn't be the player and person I am today without them. They made sure I had every opportunity to be successful and were nothing but supportive and encouraging throughout my career. Before I was even old enough for the grade school volleyball team, my mom would play with me in the backyard and taught me how to set a ball. My love for the game started at a young age, probably when I sat on the sidelines in the gym as my parents played together in an adult volleyball league, because I guess babysitters weren't needed, so I was just off on the side. I was too young to remember any of this, but I like to think this early exposure sparked an interest in me. My parents always believed in me and pushed me to always give my best. They forced me, specifically my mom forced me, to try out for club volleyball when I didn't want to. Not because I didn't want to play, but because I was too scared of trying something new where I didn't know anyone, and I worried that I wasn't even good enough to make a team. But I did make a team, and playing club was huge for my development. My mom especially was very involved and rarely missed a game or tournament. She also helped with coaching and came to a lot of our practices at ALA. I was glad to have her there, but a lot of the time she would show up wearing the same shirt I had brought for practice that day. So in addition to the typical physical challenges I had at practice, I also had to overcome the obstacle of twinning with my mom. But we all enjoyed having her around, especially for games, because she would bribe us with desserts, saying if we won that night, we got this dessert that she made. It was just a little extra incentive for us, even though I'm pretty sure we got that dessert even if we lost. My mom was very involved in my present, and then my dad helped me focus on my future. He was the one who stayed on me about applying to various colleges and made sure I was communicating with college coaches and recruiters. He went on numerous college visits with me and sent me on some of my own too. He filmed my games and put those videos on recruiting sites, which is how the coach at MacU found me. He made sure I found the right college for me, where I had a chance for playing time, yes, but also one where I was going to be happy and thrive. I have him to thank for getting me to Oklahoma. So thank you both for all of the time, money, and sacrifices you made for me to pursue my love of the game. I'm forever grateful for you. Thank you also to Coach Bodie. You saw something in a timid freshman and gave her a chance on varsity. Most of my time as a freshman was spent nervously sitting on the bench, hoping I wouldn't need to go in. I think I spent most games in prayer the whole time, either praying I wouldn't need to go in, or if I did, that I wouldn't mess up. When he'd look over to me to send me in a game, I'd get what he'd call a deer in the headlights look on my face that showed just how nervous I was. I loved volleyball, but I didn't think I had any place being on the court with the varsity at that time. It was intimidating, but still a fun and crucial experience that I needed. Thank you for working with me to get better, both in technical volleyball skills and aggressiveness in general. I don't recall many specific instances, but one thing that does stand out in my memory is being told to hit the ball harder, which was very super helpful advice. But in all seriousness, you were one of the reasons ALA volleyball was so fun. Even when you were upset with our play or were in one of your scary moods, practices were always more positive than negative. We always had fun. Thanks for putting up with our dance parties on the bus. Our taste in music was not your favorite, I'm sure, but I do think it was helpful in keeping you awake on those long drives back from Tonopah Valley and Yuma. Thank you for challenging us, encouraging us, and entertaining us. My time at ALA wouldn't have been the same without you. And of course, I want to give a huge thank you to all of my teammates. Volleyball is such a team sport, maybe more so than any other. Any individual success is not possible without the rest of the team. As the setter, my job is to put the hitters in the best situation so they can score a point for our team. But my position means nothing without passers to get me the ball and hitters to put the ball away. I'm often just the middleman. And talent alone doesn't make a player or a team great. There has to be chemistry and collaboration. What made our team at ALA so great was how close-knit we were. We didn't only spend time together during volleyball, we were friends off the court as well. We had a love for a game and a love for each other. We all had a common goal, and we cared more about the team's success over our own individual success. And as we'd often say in our pregame prayer, we wanted God to help us kick butt in a Christian way. My senior year was my favorite season. There were 5 of us seniors on the team, and the fact that it was our last year playing together made us that more focused and driven to do our best. The rest of the team understood the significance too, and everyone stepped up to the challenge. We accomplished several goals, including beating our rival, Phoenix Christian, first at their gym in a thrilling 5-set match, and then sweeping them at home, and going undefeated in our region to become regional champions. Ultimately, the season ended sooner than we would have liked, but we played some of our best volleyball. If I could go back and relive it all, I would, partly because I know I've already forgotten a lot of it. but I know that most of my favorite ALA memories revolve around the volleyball team. It was truly something special. Finally, I want to thank my husband, Matt, for all of his support. We didn't know each other in high school. Heck, we didn't even go to high school at the same time or in the same state. But in college, you always came to my games to cheer me on, and you always encouraged me in all my pursuits. I'm very thankful God brought us together, and I do still plan to bring you out of your volleyball retirement. Thank you all for being here and for giving me this time and honor, and thank you to Mr. Meyer and the Hall of Fame committee for putting this all together.
All right, our next athlete, Seth Dietrich. He was a 99 ALA grad, and he's married to Elizabeth. They live in Atlanta, Georgia. He is currently a senior analyst in sales operations at Serta Simmons and has been there for a number of years. Seth and I talk a lot on the phone and have a chance to catch up a lot, so it's fun for me to be able to have him here today, simply because, again, this is someone who, despite him being a long time ago, we still have an ongoing relationship, and I'm very thankful that God allows that to happen. In college, he played 2 years of basketball at Bethany Lutheran College and also played 2 years of golf at the same time, which is a nice opportunity to be able to do that when you're in college. Always was known as a three-point shooter. It was fun. He had some clippings from his time at Bethany, and for me especially, that was a tie because I coached at Bethany before he played there, and he played for the person that I learned under, who is my mentor for life. And so it was a neat symmetry for him to be able to have that opportunity to be able to play there. As we were discussing this on the Hall of Fame committee, one of the things that I'm sure all of you who are athletes know is the worst thing you can say about anyone, or you can really do, is like, someone is the best or this or that. You know, it's the eternal debate that goes on sports talk radio and other places about who's the GOAT, LeBron or Michael Jordan or this, that. I mean, everybody makes these things. The answer is no one really knows. But one of the things that I know is during my time at ALA, it's hard to find anyone with more athletic ability than Seth, and more ability to make things happen on a court or on the track or on the football field, because God blessed him with some amazing abilities, and on top of that, he worked really hard at it. And so in football, like for instance, his senior year in football, we played 8-man in those days, and I didn't know anything about 8-man when I started coaching it. And most of the time, every season was exactly the same when I coached 8-man. We had a really good regular season, and then the first game of the playoffs, we would play on what team was some amazing athlete, and we would get destroyed and 42-pointed, and our season would be over. It happened literally almost every single time. So Seth's senior year, we had a great group of athletes. John was on the team, John Halverson sitting here in the front. I thought, this might actually be our year to get somewhere. And then I think it was the second last game of the season. We were playing down at the deaf school in Tucson, and it's a two-point conversion play, and this humongous kid body slams Seth on the two-point conversion, breaks his collarbone, and so John got to be the tailback for the rest of the season that year. And we were still really good, but we were missing that explosiveness, and we get to the first round of the playoffs, and we don't get 42-pointed. We lose in overtime to a really good team. But it was one of those things where you just can tell the difference when someone who's a game changer is not out there. In basketball, Seth was, I had known him coming to camp when he was coming in. He comes into ALA. He was on varsity all 4 years. He started his last 3. And his sophomore year was the first time we made the state tournament when I was coaching, and so that was a huge accomplishment for all of us to be able to get there. It was the first time we beat Scottsdale Christian in my time coaching, and that was our whole thing. When I got there, I'm like, we are going to be playing so hard until we can beat this team, because they were the best one in the state year in and year out. And he was a huge part of that. He was a great defender. He was a good three-point shooter, athleticism. The ability to dunk at 5'11/6 foot. I'm not sure if you quite get to 6 foot. That kind of stuff was just unheard of. And then again, by the time he was a senior, we were fortunate. That was probably one of the most amazing years anybody has ever had as a coach. And I won't tell all the stories, but our quarterfinal game that year, we're playing Fort Thomas, and I just was telling this at my club practice the other night. So the short version is we're down 8 with 44 seconds to go. I used my last timeout, and as they walked back on the court, I even said to my assistant coach, who at that time was Jeff Gunn, and I looked at Jeff and I said, I cannot believe our season is going to end like this. Because I didn't think we were going to win. Who would win? You're down 8, 44 seconds left. In the end, we have 3 free throws with like 4 seconds left to go. So John makes the first 2, and he misses the third, and we tip it in, and we win at the buzzer. It was the most amazing game. There are 3 people who were at that game and on the team here sitting in the room, and I think they would agree that that experience was phenomenal. But a big part of that was it was a cohesive group, but Seth's leadership in that group. And then we ended up winning the state championship a couple days later. So that was really fun to be able to see. And you look at some of his basketball career statistics. He scored over 1,200 points, which is 5th all time now. But he's got the most steals in school history. He's got one of the highest scoring games in school history. He had 10 steals in a game one time, which is a pretty phenomenal stat. So it was just really neat to be able to coach him in basketball. And then the other thing is track. Again, his high jump ability was pretty legendary, and I can remember watching him at the state championship meet. There was a kid from Muggian who was really good and was kind of going neck and neck with him all the way down to the final, but he ends up jumping 6'7", which is still the 1A state record in Arizona and is obviously still our record at ALA as well. We had a kid go 6'4" a couple of years ago, and that seemed high. So the ability to do that, and then you can see also he won the high jump 2 years in a row. 4x1 team was the champions when he was a junior, and it was a big impact. Everybody knew him for just being able to, again, use his athleticism, but I just remember him also as someone who he made the biggest plays at the right time. I'm pretty sure he would say that he meant to do this, but in the state championship game, it was a crucial point in the game. I think we were up 2, and we really needed a bucket, and we made a 3. Seth made one. He banked it in, and I'm pretty sure he called bank. So he had decided the degree of difficulty needed to be up. So anyhow, it was a big impact on ALA during his time, so I am happy to bring up Seth Dietrich. Congratulations, Seth.
I didn't bring any prepared remarks. I knew that I'd be outdone by most of the people here that are speaking. Most of them are much better. But first off, thanks, Doug, and everyone putting this on. I truly am honored to do this, and I tried to talk myself out of it. Doug talked me back into coming. Thank you for my mom. Without her, I wouldn't be here. We grew up traveling for her coaching and reffing, and so I spent all my days in gyms because that's where, she could afford to keep us. And, without her, the Boys and Girls Club, Good Shepherd, we worked hard at Good Shepherd, and John knows that, Good Shepherd never did anything well in terms of winning anything. We were consolation in everything. My 8th grade year, we finally won. And that was a huge thing because we beat Grace, we beat, Emmanuel, we beat Pilgrim, and then we got to move on and we all became friends, right? We played against each other, and then in high school we bonded and we got to be together. And, by that, we worked so hard, and because of them, I was able to do what I was able to do. But without them, without competition, then there is no getting better. I invited my cousin Troy and his wife. She's not able to make it today. She had a health emergency, but we have her mom here too. They supported me growing up. I was able to stay at their house for weeks when I had to go to the Scottsdale Christian camps during the summer, so that was nice. So they were helped out, and they were able to come to our game and help us out. And I remember them being a little kid, and one of the best things ever, they gave us $20 and took us out shopping one day. And that meant the world to me. So that's why they're here. My dad wasn't there growing up, but he's here because later in life he was able to help me with what I needed later in life. So my dad and my stepmom, thank you. John Halverson, thank you. You've meant a lot. I contact you here and there because, I consider you a great friend. Doug, consider him like a father. So, it's just hard for me. It really meant a lot going there. I thought I wanted to do everything I could for them. You know, I try to make it back to help ALA where I can. I don't think I have as much as I should for what I've gotten out of it. But thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, our next inductee, Kathy Halverson Martin. Kathy graduated in 1997, and she's here with her whole family, which is awesome. Her husband, Dan, and, we have one missing. I got ahead of myself. So her 3 daughters are able to be here. Her son plays Division I football at Liberty University in Virginia, so kind of understanding why he might not be able to be here today. I know one of the things she put on her bio is that their family, they all love the same stuff. They love sports. You know, they love football, and they love volleyball, and they love basketball, and that's really an awesome thing. She lives in Mare, Minnesota, and I told her about a year ago, I thought it was kind of cool. She teaches at the exact same school where my nephews graduated from 10, 15 years ago. And my brother loves that school, loves sending his kids to that school. So I thought that was kind of neat. As far as her career, she taught and coached at Agua Fria High School. And then she was a stay-at-home mom for a while while they lived in Connecticut. And when they moved to Minnesota, she took on a job in 2014. She's a special ed resource teacher at Mare Lutheran High School, coaches JV girls basketball, and is the varsity assistant. And as any mom and true basketball player would be proud of, they made the state tournament in Minnesota for the first time in school history a couple of years ago, and then got 3rd place last year. And I'm from Minnesota, so I get this. Making state means you're one of the 8 best teams. It's not 32, it's not 64, it's 8. So it's a big deal to be able to get there. So that's awesome that she got to experience that with her kids. I think that's really, really neat. As far as her college career, she played at Phoenix College, 97 to 99. She was a team captain. She was 2nd team All-Region, and in 98, they were the Division II region champions and made the national tournament in junior college and placed 4th. So there's a lot to be said for that. And again, like I said before, if you watch a junior college basketball game, those kids can play. And so for her to be able to do that is awesome. Her ALA career is the list. I almost needed like another PowerPoint slide because it is really long, but I tried to keep it into one. And again, I was blessed to be able to watch her play the entire time. And I think half the time, most of my entertainment was standing next to your dad during games as well, because he was always entertaining with his comments of what to say. I still remember in volleyball, every time we served it in the net, he would just literally go like this, and he would pretend to shoot himself in the foot over and over and over again. So always the entertainment of being by him during games. But yeah, during her volleyball career, she was on varsity all 4 years, team captain her senior year, and you can see again just a long list of all region honors, honorable mention, all state. She was player of the year in the region her senior year, 1st team all state. And I would say of that team, so they were runner up 3 out of 4 years when she was in high school. And that's because stinking Northwest Christian was so good, no one could beat them. Literally, we lost to them, I think, almost every year in the state finals. And so I've often thought ALA volleyball, I think, has had the hardest time because we've had more runner-up finishes in volleyball than any other sport because of who we're always up against. But it was awesome to watch her play there. And I'm going to skip down to the bottom. She did play varsity softball for 3 years, and she apparently took 1 year off to try high jump and got 2nd in state. So nice to be able to just take a little, break from the monotony. And then but I think all of us remember her playing basketball from the time she walked on campus and stepped foot in a gym. You just knew that she had an amazing ability. She could shoot it. She could play inside. She rebounded. She set her teammates up, steal. She just did it all on the court. And it was always fun to watch play. And again, playing for Grits, when I was a young coach at the time. And I said this last year a little bit, but I'll kind of reiterate. Grits' style is completely different than mine, and I learned so much my first 6, 7, 8 years watching Grits coach because he was just a mastermind, only he did it in kind of his goofy, sarcastic way, so it was a little bit hard to figure out all the time, but I know he had a great relationship with Kathy, and the two of them worked really well together. So she had 1,467 career points, We do not have all of our girls' records, unfortunately. I gotta believe that's pretty close to the top, if not the top. And that would be. There's only one guy who's ever scored more than that in ALA career. But again, averaging those rebounds, 239 career steals. I guess that's a little bit more than you, Seth. So she got about 19 more. But again, a long list of honors starting her sophomore year, especially first team All-Region, All-Tournament team. Then after that, All-State and All-Tournament. And by her senior year, again, Player of the Year, first team All-State, All-USA, honorable mention. It just was, again, for me to think back in those days and to be in the gym and watching so many great athletes go through during that time. But Kathy just really stands out. It's hard to say that there's been a better girls basketball player in ALA history. So please help me welcome Kathy Halverson Martin.
All right, thank you. It's good to be here. I'm excited to be here. And it's fun to just reminisce, and I'm excited to hear everybody else's stories. So it's always exciting. I want to start off by thanking my family. Thank you to Dan, my husband. He is always promoting me more than I want. The joke back in Minnesota is we had some faculty over at our house one day, and he runs down to the basement and pulls out my scrapbooks and starts showing people. And I'm like, I have to hide those because I don't like it. I don't like a lot of attention, but he is always promoting me and getting me to push myself out and just always being my biggest supporter, so thank you. Also want to thank my girls for being here. We had a little snafu the night we were traveling out, and they almost didn't make it, so I was so bummed. I thought we were going to just have to leave them in our house in Minnesota, but they're here. I'm thankful. You guys and your flexibility and your energy and your competitiveness that your dad and I have passed on to you is fun to watch. Also wish my son could be here today, but he told me he wanted to be here to watch me get my last athletic award. But he was being sincere, and it is probably true. So I wish he could be here, but like Doug said, he just can't make it here. And then my family, my sister, my brother, we always love coming to Arizona and spending time together. It's never enough time, and we're separated by a lot of distance right now, but whenever we can get together, it's always fun, and we make memories and have fun. So thank you guys for all being here and taking time out of your day to make time for this. So when Doug first called and said this was happening, the first thing I thought about, I'm like, I don't even remember high school. It feels like a long time ago. And so I can't even think of many stories. Like game to game, I was going through my books, and I just don't remember a whole lot. So, but the things I do remember is just the relationships that we made. Grits is like a big part of it. My teammates are a big part of it, and just the daily stuff that makes the biggest impact is what I always remember. I remember our morning practices, and Coach Grits loves the Eagles, so we would have Eagles music playing in the morning. It's a fond memory. I do remember we would have a few blowout wins, and Grits would stand up, and me and my teammates, Rachel, Dana, we would stick wet towels under Grits' chair, and he would sit down and soak his pants. So that was fun. But the biggest thing I just learned, and it comes from Grits and all the coaches at the school, is life is bigger than the game, but the game teaches you so much. So that was always something that I remember, and I'm passing it on today because God is still working through me, and I'm back at a high school where I'm doing the same thing that I experienced 26 years ago or so. It all started, not to give a big history, but I always set goals for myself, and I always wanted to play basketball. And basketball, I love basketball, and my brother and I would spend time out on the court at Grace and under the lights. I thought it was cool to be a pastor's kid and be able to turn the lights on, and nobody else in Glendale could play on a court with lights, so I was cool. But my brother and I, we'd have some of our biggest fights out on the court. Never physical, but it was always spicy. But it was fun. And from there, we just had a great time, and that started, I don't even know, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, 8th grade. I had dreams of playing for Grits. I was 7th and 8th grade, and I wanted to play for Grits on varsity. That was my goal. I got there. Yeah, just all those years together and playing together at the high school was amazing. Trying not to go on too long, but so when you boil this all down, the 4 years at the high school was just kind of a blip on the radar. It goes by so fast. The memories are few and far between, but the impact the coaches make and the teammates make and the school has made, it still translates today because, like Doug said, I'm at a high school in Minnesota, and it's a carbon copy of ALA, and I love ALA, and I love my school now, and it really just translates so perfectly. I get to share the gospel with so many kids. I get to preach to them, teach them, build relationships with them, and it's all the same that I experienced at the high school. And so for that, I'm so thankful. I know God is good, and I know He's continuing to bless me, and I'm so thankful for it. So thank you for putting this on. It's been fun and exciting, and I look forward to the future.
I had just enough of a hint at Kathy's humility, and I don't know Dan, so therefore, and I didn't have any contact information, but a few weeks ago, I did email the athletic director and the head basketball coach that she works with. I said, just so you know, we're putting her in the Hall of Fame, because she might not tell you on her own. So, and he said, yeah, Dan had taken care of notifying everyone, so well done, well done. And, but like I said, it didn't surprise me when you said it that way, so I thought that was funny. All right. We're going a little bit farther back in history now. Before my time, and I think that's fun to be able to say that. So Norman Boyd Tech was at ALA from 1979 to 1988 as a teacher and coach, and we didn't really know each other because we weren't there at the same time, but a number of years ago, I remember meeting you at Chet and Barb's Epiphany Party in Tempe, and we got a chance to sit and talk a little bit about ALA and things like that, and that was great. And it's exciting that you can have your family here, his wife Muriel and his 4 sons, Robert and Paul, Daniel and Michael, he's got his grandkids along with. And I just thought it was interesting just hearing about history. I won't go through the whole thing, and I don't want to spoil any thunder from him either, but he was born in South Dakota, and he wrote in his bio this trip about his family took a trip to California during World War II, but their car broke down in Arizona, and they lived in Arizona for a year. While they were getting the trailer fixed and everything. It makes perfect sense, right? That's something we do today. And then after they got everything fixed, and they went to California and finished the trip, and then drove home to South Dakota. So all makes perfect sense. But I just thought it was interesting that, he had this tie to Arizona long before God led you here to be able to be a teacher. He's currently living in Glendale, Arizona. And so his career before ALA, he taught for a year in Goodhue, Minnesota. Then he taught in Michigan at Fox Valley Lutheran. And during that time, like many dedicated Wells teachers, his job description was wide. So you can see he's been a principal, and he was an English teacher and a drama teacher and coached tennis, ran track meets. He talked about playing fast-pitch softball during his time there. And while all that was going on, he earned a master's degree from Central Michigan University. So you can see his education, DMLC, and then he has 2 master's degrees. And while he was in college, he played basketball and was a championship-level tennis player as well. So had a lot of experience before he got to ALA. But his ALA highlights, and again, this is what other people have talked about, and in my kind of research and looking up what's going on from a lot of other people, I remember a number of years ago, we did a state championship reunion from the 80s teams, and a lot of them were the same people from year to year, so we kind of did everybody at once. We did the girls, we did the guys, and it was really neat for me at that time because, again, all that was before me, and seeing all the relationships, and you guys probably remember, a lot of people showed up for those nights. It was really fun to see. But Boyd was the architect of some really good basketball teams. And you see on there again, when he was at ALA, teaching English, but he was also teaching mass media. He was the directing plays, things like that. Coached boys basketball, started the tennis team. So just a lot of things that he was doing to impact other people. They won state championships in 82, 83, 85, and they were runner-up in 84 and 86. So if you can't figure out, that's 5 years in a row playing in a state championship. There's a lot to be said for that. That's very, very impressive. He was the Independent League Coach of the Year in 83 and earned the AIA Excellence Award in 1987. I think, in fact, one of the big accomplishments is the original titles were all won when we were in the Independent League, and then we transitioned into the AIA. And I'm sure that you would agree that competition in some ways was stepped up on a regular season basis for sure. And one of those the very first year we made it to the state championship. So it was nice. It was nice that we came in with all the good players. Didn't come in, when we were in a down year. But no, I think that's great that we were able to continue that run of success. And a lot of good players. By the way, I do have to mention, in the pictures that were on there, there were some uniforms that we had in those days. Untucked. They had the brown hem, but they were tan. I remember one of my first things I did at 1993 when I got to ALA is I tossed those in the garbage. So I'm just trying to let you know that I was not. If you don't know, our original school colors were technically brown and tan, okay? And then they morphed into the much better brown and gold, chocolate brown, might I add. And then in 99, when we went 11-man and we had to buy new football uniforms, I said, now's the time. Dan was coming in as new principal. I said, Dan, do you care if I change the school colors? Nope. No focus groups. No alumni surveys, no opinion polls, black and gold. Now that's what we are. So anyway, but I love seeing those pictures in those uniforms. And then after his time at ALA, he's been a busy man. So he's taught at a number of places, Ottawa, Glendale Community College. He was the head of the English department at Towson High School for a long time. And that's when he earned his second master's degree, by the way, from ASU. So just a tremendous impact. Some of you guys sitting here, I know the Uncafers played for him. And again, a lot of great things happened during your time at ALA. So Boyd, we're happy to welcome you into the Hall of Fame.
I've been around a long time. I came to ALA in '79, which was the second year of the school. We started school the first year in '78 at St. Thomas Church. And then we had a second year there, and that's when I came. Me and well, Adix was already there. Grits, and who was the other guy? Pasbrick, right. The three of us came together. And I remember standing in the church when we got ordained. I was first, and you were second, and but anyway, the years at ALA have been interesting. They were filled with emotion, but they were also filled with students who were learning. The teachers at ALA worked really hard, and those kids did well. They learned, and they went out into the community, and they were successful. They did things that a lot of other people weren't able to do because they had the Lord Jesus behind them. And that's the one difference that many of them have. There's a few things that went on at school that were rememberable. But most of the time, school was a day after day after day of work, of coming to school and opening the books and learning. But once in a while, you got a chance to go to a football game or basketball, or, in fact, most of the time, I didn't go to the games because I was home writing lessons or correcting. It was hard work. I got a couple players sitting there. They know, they know how much work it was. Sherman and Andy, great players, basketball players. We went 7 years to state championships. We started in '82, and we won the state championship by 3 points. That was Sherman's second, that was his junior year. And that was an interesting game. The next year, we won again in '83. I've lost the number. I don't know what the scores were. Then we went the next year and lost by a large number of points. So we decided to go back the next year to the state championship. That was Andy's senior year in '85. And we won that one by 6 points, 5 points, 5 or 6 points. It was a great game. I think we played at Grand Canyon Stadium. Yeah. Then we went and lost. Well, we lost in '84 and '86 and '87. Not by many points. In some cases, it was only 2 or 3 points. The years that I taught at ALA were interesting in my whole years of teaching, because I was fairly young then. I learned a lot of things too, just like those kids that we were teaching. I had taught my first year in a single classroom, one teacher, me and 19 other kids. They were a little bit younger than I was, but I succeeded in teaching them a few things. And then the school district, the synodical school district, the chairman there called me in at the beginning of the next year in September and said, how would you like to teach in Michigan? I was in Goodhue, Minnesota. And I said, well, I'm busy teaching here. And he said, yeah, but we have 4 schools there, or we have 4 churches there, and they're all 3 miles apart. And we need to reduce those. So we want to send you to Michigan. There's a school there that needs a principal and a teacher, and you and your wife will fill that in. By the way, my wife is sitting over here. Well, stand up. Tell me when my time's up. So we went to Michigan, and we were there in that grade school. There was four teaching rooms, And we spent 7 years there. And in that meantime, I had gone back to school and got my first master's degree. And Fox Valley Lutheran High School found out that I had a degree in English, and so they gave me a call to come there and teach English. And we went to Fox Valley, which is in Appleton, Wisconsin, at the top of the little lake that's in the top of Wisconsin, and we taught there 6 years. And then I got a call to Arizona Lutheran Academy. So my father-in-law, who was the chairman of the district, said, "Come on down. We got a good school going." And it had only been there 1 year. They only had 2 classes. They had freshmen and sophomores. When I got here, they were still at the church, St. Thomas, and I taught that year. I taught all the English in the school. Thank you. I taught all the English and some of the multimedia classes and so forth. And I was a junior coach. The other fellow who was the main coach didn't continue the next year. We moved to the Madrid campus and became 4-year high school. And that's when Sherman, in those years, took over the first 2 years, leading us to state championships. And Andy then followed up in '65, and then we lost in '66, and we lost in '67, and in '68, I only taught the first quarter of the year, and then I went to Glendale Community College and taught there, and some other places also. My experience at the high school was great. My kids, 2 of them went all 4 years there. My third son decided to go in a different direction and went to the other Lutheran school just north of downtown and finished there, and lives in northern part of the, what? Yeah, louder. Yeah. I've taught English for many years. I taught at Glendale Community College for 23 years, not at the school all the time. I sometimes taught on some of the extra campuses that they had, the evening campuses. But I spent 23 years there. My wife said, "Don't forget to tell them that the Indian schools in South Dakota, where I went to high school, I went to Mobridge Lutheran Academy, they played a different kind of basketball. They played a setback, reversed, sort of slower kind of basketball. So when I came to Arizona and was asked to teach basketball, that was my first year. I played basketball, but I didn't coach until I got to Arizona. And that was a new experience for me, but we were very successful. we did what we had to do to win. I'd like to introduce my sons. Danny's over here. You've met Michael back there, and Paul is here. Paul went to Madrid High School 4 years, and Daniel went 2 years to Madrid and 2 years to the campus where the school is at now. Question? We were just saying if you could wrap it up soon. Okay. My experience at the academy was very interesting. I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot of things. I met a lot of people, and then I went on. After '88, I went to Glendale Community College. I taught there. Then I left teaching. Well, I didn't leave it completely. I still taught evenings there for the next 20-some years. But then I went to Tullison High School, and I taught 11 years out there. And that was a very successful part of my life. And then I decided to retire. And now I don't teach anything. Thank you.
All right. I don't even know where you start with Joan. No, I'm just kidding. So the one person who mirrors my time at ALA more than anyone else is Joan Tierney, and it is exciting to have her here today. So as I described, we have a couple different categories, and when we were talking at our nomination, we didn't really know where to put Joan. I think, but where we agree, though, is she had a huge impact as a coach, but she might be the epitome of what it means to contribute to the success of kids and ALA athletics. And so, as we talked about it, that contributor role is really, really important for her as well. So, I put up there, all of Joan's 4 kids all went to ALA and all made an impact during their time there. She currently still lives in Phoenix. She retired from ALA in 2020. She's got a very interesting history. Ran a successful business with her husband Bill in Tucson for 20 years, and then wanted their kids to come to ALA, so moved to Phoenix. You gotta love and appreciate that. And so that's what they did. And in December 1992, ALA was stuck in the middle of the year with no English teacher, so Joan filled in, and then became permanent the following summer. And that's pretty much when I came right after that as well. So I started 6 months after Joan did, and then she retired, but she's still active as a substitute because she loves teaching. We all know that about her. She loves hanging out with kids. Even spent 3 months as a long-term sub at Carl Hayden High School in South Phoenix last year. So has not really retired, as we all know. She went to U of A, has a degree from there, was in a number of honor societies. I'm guessing Joan had pretty good grades in college, knowing who she is now. So it's exciting to think about all that. So her highlights at ALA, this is where I'm talking about the contributor part. So when they moved here in 1991, she and her husband donated all the weight equipment. And you got to remember what weight equipment was in 1991. The Nautilus machine. Remember that thing? Oh, that was a beast in what is now my wife's office, basically, in a different part of our campus. So our weight room has moved a number of times, but I know that wasn't a thing years and years ago to weightlift, and now it's like it's not even possible to think about athletics without making that important. So they donated that, and then her husband Bill was a full scholarship track athlete at U of A, and so he volunteered his time to teach weight training and to work with kids. And then they decided that track probably needed a bonus, so they donated all this stuff and started the track program at ALA. And I think this was pretty cool. Their first year coaching track, we had the highest team GPA in all of the state in girls track, so that's very exciting. And I know she's proud that she got to coach 3 of her kids, and Liz was the 3,200 meter state champion in track when she was at ALA. She was the coach of the year in 1998 from the Coaches Association. You look at what our girls and boys accomplished in track in the 90s, We were state champions. We were runner-up. And I remember going to all those meets, watching all those amazing athletes work under her care and under her guidance. Cross country as well, was a longtime cross country coach, and you can see her impact. But what I really want to get to is, this is why Joan mattered during all of the time that she was there. So with Mrs. T, the one thing you never wanted to do was take her hand. So what that meant was, when she reached out to you, Joan had a heart that is so big for every single person on campus. It did not matter who you were. And in fact, she had an uncanny knack to find the kids who really, really needed a friend. And they needed somebody to care about them because maybe they weren't in athletics, or maybe they were struggling with something, and she just has a gift for those kids. And I remember driving the yellow school bus with grits on the way to games in the 90s, and there was always this person who was tailgating us 5 feet behind with the lights right in my rearview mirror. Well, that was Joan, because she drove to every single away game. She filmed every single away game in that humongous VHS camera that she would have on her shoulder or on a tripod. But it didn't matter where we were, whether we were in East Fork in the White Mountains, or whether we were in Ajo and we were almost in Mexico, or we were in Patagonia. She was always there, and she always had a car full of kids with her, because somebody needed a ride. Usually 6 kids needed a ride. And so they were all in there. And so it didn't matter whether she was coaching and being a friend to kids and guiding them, or whether she was doing it in some other way. She made it possible for a lot of students at ALA to have an experience they would not otherwise have had, because of her generosity with her time and her money and her gift of being able to connect with them. And so I just think it's awesome that we get to honor all the ways that she helped all the coaches and athletes and coached herself during her time at ALA. So congratulations, Mrs. T, Joan Tierney.
You know, I've seen so many changes at ALA. It's been kind of wonderful. I know when our kids originally came here, and my husband and I got involved in some of the programs. Kind of interesting, the weight room at that time had basically one set of barbells. I think they were yours, actually.
I wasn't here yet.
Oh, that's right. Well, then I'm not sure whose they were. But a big empty room. I know the first time we went in there, it was a big empty room, and there's one set of barbells. And my husband, who had been on the U of A track team, he said, if they're ever going to have great athletics here, they've got to do weightlifting. And so he created the weightlifting program, and we ran that for many years. And the interesting thing was that he would sit all day in that big empty room and wait for the weightlifting classes, and it, it was for credit. But after a while, the kids would realize that he was there all day in that big empty room, and so what they would do is they would ask permission from their study hall teachers, and they'd go over there to be in the room with my husband, not to do weightlifting, but to talk. And I think that's one of the things about athletics. You're in a situation with your athletes or your weightlifting students, and it's not exactly like academics. You're there because you're both doing something you enjoy. The coach is coaching you and enjoying it. You, the athlete, are enjoying it. And it allows for special relationship, something that's so different from any other relationship that you have. And so people would come and he would counsel them. He'd counsel them about whatever was on their mind. And I know for myself, as a coach, that was also something that continued, because that's one of the important things, I think, about being a coach. Because of your special relationship, you have your own children, and you love them. But you have another family as well, and those are the children that, by serving God through serving those children, they're your children too, and they're part of your family. And you think about them, you worry about them, you do everything you can to make their life the best way it can be. And It's just can't be overemphasized how important that is for coaches to remember that, you know, you're there and they are your family. And to help them, I mean, there were times we'd have track practice, and I'd end up in the middle of the field sitting there with somebody that needed to be counseled right at that moment. And I couldn't say, well, let's make an appointment, or let's talk about this another day. They needed to talk then. I know there were some that would come and see me, even come knocking at my door on occasion, because they needed someone to talk to. And sometimes, you know, that is what they need more than anything, to get their troubles out, to be able to say, you know, what it was they were dealing with, and somebody to help them get a little strength, to point them to their faith, to say, you know, God is there with you. You can overcome anything. And I think for students, you know, for your athletes over the years, there's many things that are offered through athletics. You know, first of all, they get to belong to something. That is so important for teenagers, to be somebody that belongs with others, to make friends, to be part of it, to be respected, to be cared about, you know. And so teams have that major impact on students. And of course, how to make them, I don't know, have to take pride in their accomplishments and things that they can do, and being convinced that they can do things, that this life, as rough as it is, and let's face it, it's a rough old life, they can focus, they can pick a goal, and they can achieve it. And you think about all the things you do as a coach, sometimes funny, sometimes not so, to try to encourage them and show them that you may not be able to see what your future is, but I can see it for you, and I can help you find it. And so, you know, you teach them a little bit about toughness. One thing we used to do for cross country, the Apache have a test of strength that they use. You take a big drink, you know, big mouthful of water, and then you run several miles in the desert heat. And let's face it, it's Arizona. It's always desert heat. And so we decided we'd do that. And so we'd run miles with their mouth full of water. And when they got to the finish spot, I'd be standing there. They'd have to spit out at my feet, hopefully not on my feet, spit out their water. And it was a test of their toughness. And it didn't take long before they all could do that, because they were tough, all right? They knew how to be tough. And I think about repeats. Oh my gosh, dreaded repeats. You know, you get to the end of the season in running events particularly. The only way you can tune them up, okay, is really through repeats, but you don't dare do it the rest of the year because it's excruciating. It's extremely hot, usually that time of year. And so here you are, and they're going to do repeats, which means they're going to run, you know, however many times around the track as fast as they can. They're going to come to a stop. You're going to hit the stopwatch, and then they're going to do it again. And then they're going to do it again, and then they're going to do it again, and then they're going to do it again. I still remember Andy Miller, one tough customer. Man, he'd run, he'd come in, walk over to the side, throw up, come back, and I'd say, "You all right?" "Yes." I'd say, "Go." And off he'd go. And, you know, but it was the making of a man, you know, making of someone that had the grit to face up to what this world had, you know, in store for them. And that comes in handy, you know. In addition to making them tough, of course, and certainly you know, particularly for us as coaches at this school, is the spiritual aspect. And the fact that when you are working with kids, and you're not just an authority figure, you're their friend working for something that you all care about, you know, you're able not only to advise them and to coach them spiritually, but they have a chance to put their faith into action. And I saw that again and again. We'd have cross-country meets, and I mean, they're out in the middle. You can't even keep track of where they are because it's 3-mile runs, out in the desert. And I'm like, okay, where are they? This one hasn't gone back. It's because they're out there and they've stopped. Rather than garnering the prize, they have stopped and they're helping a player from another team, helping them in. I think about the track meets where high jumpers, like Seth Dietrich, which, by the way, I gotta say a side note here. I still remember the year was it your hand or your wrist or whatever it was? I don't know where he is here, somewhere. There you are. You broke that in football. And you didn't want to tell anybody because then you couldn't play football, as I recall. And I think it was football. And so he came to track, and you noticed he got all those high jump medals. He did at least one of them. He started the season with his arm in a cast, and he was doing high jump with his arm in a cast. That's tough. But here again, track meets. My athletes would be observing the form of people doing high jump, because it's very much form-oriented, or form in discus and shot, because much of their abilities has to do with form. And they'd say, hey, you're not putting your foot down just right when you come up to that high jump, and that's what's throwing you off. Or, you're doing the spin, but your hand isn't set just right for the discus. And, you just do move that a little bit, and you'd go a lot further. Now, this is advising people from other teams that because they now knew how to do better, they would do better. And they did do better. And sometimes they meant that they won and, or got a higher place than we did. And yet, again and again, students are out there doing that. I had people I didn't even know come up to me at different sporting events, and they'd say, there's something different about the people from this school. We've never seen anything like that, They reach out that hand of friendship. They care what happens to the other people that are there, even if they're not on their team. I think one of the biggest thing I remember is being in a state meet, having one of my athletes come and say, they've misdone the points. I'm being given a medal and I should not. It belongs to somebody else. I'm going to go and I'm going to go talk to him. He said, is that all right? I said, of course it's all right. Oh, off he goes. And they corrected the points. He didn't get the medal. The other person did. But you know what? He was living his faith. And, that's kind of what it's all about. Whether you're working with them as simply students in the class, not simply, you had lots of opportunities for counseling there too. Or perhaps, like I said, in athletics, just seems like there's a lot of options there. A lot of ability to influence people, to help them be strong, to see their way in the future, to be encouraged, to know that God is with them and you're with them, and they're not alone in this crazy world and the crazy things that happen. I found great pleasure in coaching. And certainly, like I said, a lot of changes. Used to go to Ray, and I think I mentioned that before maybe. There were no women allowed to participate in any of the events. And being a woman coach, there weren't any other women coaches, so they would have to find a janitor to open the bathroom for me year after year because there wasn't another woman there. And it's kind of funny. I know facing all those men, that can be hard. And I think I'm a pretty sweet person, or at least I try to be. I always figure you never know what real problems people have. And I used to tell my students this too. You look and you think, oh, I know what's going on with them. And you don't have a clue half the time, So you've always got to give them the benefit of the doubt. You got to care about them. You gotta be a little patient with them, And I think that makes a difference. I think that helps you get through life and helps other people get through life as well, That you're there and you're practicing your Christian faith. And particularly for coaches, that you're remembering that these children that you coach, they're your children too, So whatever you do, you're doing for them as a child of God and as your child as well. You know, what do you want for your child? That's what you want for these students. You know, that's what you want. I don't know. I think of what saying I used to have for my runners particularly. They'd say, or whatever it was, weightlifting, whatever. They'd say, well, I'd say, this is what I want you to do. And they'd say, and I quote, I'll try. And I say, no, you don't try. You decide, and you execute. And you know what? The family could, because the confidence that you had in them gave them the confidence and enabled them to do things that they never could have done otherwise. I really appreciate this honor, and I thank you very much. But I have to say, even more, the honor of having been allowed to know and to coach the wonderful young people all these many years. Wow, that's the greatest honor of all. And I'm goofy here. I thank you very much, and God's blessings.
So I know most of you don't know, but Sarah Unkefer got married yesterday, and when Andy was selected, I said, you know, it's your choice. We can wait a year. It's okay. There, you know, and we decided to move forward, and so we are thrilled that you guys are all here. And I kind of jokingly said before, my daughter was at the wedding, and when I went to bed at 1:30 or 1 o'clock, I don't think she was home yet. So I knew they were definitely going to be working hard this morning to stay with us, or this afternoon. So anyway, without further ado, so Andy Unkefer, Andrew has been a huge part of ALA, and I think that that's one of the things I just want to start with. He was a 1985 graduate, but Andy's influence on ALA, it's right up till today, literally. And it's been every day since then, and we're so grateful for all the ways that he's made an impact. It starts with his family, he and Amy, high school sweethearts at ALA, awesome story. All the kids went to ALA and were successful in their own way in all kinds of different areas. And his brother Sherman was inducted last year into our first Hall of Fame class, which was awesome. And Andy currently lives in Paradise Valley. So it's like I said, it's been an ongoing, terrific relationship. And we want the Hall of Fame to always reflect, too. It's not just about what you did in 4 years of high school necessarily. It's also what you've done to continue to positively impact ALA, impact the world, make your faith important in what you do. So as far as his college career, he was a walk-on basketball player at, I knew I made a spelling mistake in there somewhere. It's GCU, not Glendale Community College. And he was the only one on a team that eventually won the NAIA National Championship. He talks about the fact that one of his highlights in life is that his coach was Paul Westphal, and ended up to be the Suns coach a few years later. How great of a change is that? I'm the coach at GCU. Oh, wait, now I'm the Suns coach. But a lifelong friendship. Paul passed away a couple years ago, and I remember one of the cool things that Andy would share a lot of times on his Facebook was that all these stream of famous people were stopping to see Paul Westphal all the time in the last few months of his life as he dealt with cancer. And so it was cool to see, you know, Charles Barkley and Monty Williams and Jerry Colangelo and all these amazing people. And I know your friendship with him was very important. He graduated as the Business School Student of the Year from GCU, and in 2016 he was inducted into their Jerry Colangelo School of Business Hall of Fame. So definitely an impact. He talks about his career. I love this. Unemployed at 27 with 3 kids. That is the dream, is it not? Thanks, Alex. We set you up for success. I wasn't there then, so I can't take the blame. But decided to start Unkefer and Associates, an insurance marketing company, ran that for 25 years, and God blessed so many different things that he and his family was able to do through that. He stepped down in 2018, and now he just loves helping other people, and does consulting to help other people start businesses. And he and Amy, after being empty nesters for 2 years, I'm right on that right now. Does that mean I need to make a life change? But now they're raising their 2 nephews, Uriah and Abel. number of industry awards that you can see there in 2010, 2012, and 2014. And again, the ongoing thing is leadership at his church, grade schools, has helped ALA in a number of ways, served on committees, served on boards. He was on the board of regents at Wisconsin Lutheran College and currently serves on the board of trustees at Arizona Christian University. He was the former chair there. And that all has nothing to do with his high school career at ALA, where played all three sports in football. In the independent league, we were undefeated in 1983. And I love this story. He covered the all-time leader in receiving yards in AIA history, held him to 2 catches and got 2 picks. Nice job. In basketball, you've kind of heard through Boyd's talking about their state championships and the impact there, and I'm sure playing with your brother was awesome. You can see that his individual honors, all-state, all-tourney, and then U.S. Army Scholar Athlete. His scoring averages up every year. You probably didn't play enough games to get on the all-time scoring list because you guys played like 17 games a year in those days. Now we play 30, so it's a little different. But again, just an amazing impact on the court, the glory days of ALA basketball. And then also played a couple of years of baseball where we won a state championship in the AIAA as well. So it was certainly been an impacting high school career, but all through then, since then, God has just used you, Andy, and we appreciate all the things you've done for ALA. So let's welcome Andrew Unkefer.
Well, thank you, Doug, and I've been waiting to say this a long time. I'd like to thank the Academy. So I had to work on 2 speeches in the same weekend, so I did spend a little more time on my speech last night, and we had, it's all right. I mean, my youngest daughter got married, so we had the most beautiful service, and you all would have loved it. Some of you were here, and we had a lot of gospel, a lot of prayer, and a lot of gratitude at that wedding, and it reminded me of a lot of things I learned. Yeah, it was great. It was great. So, you know, having all my family here is very important to me, and my kids. I love you so much, and I'm proud of you. I really, really am. So I did want to say to everybody that has been inducted this year that I just really congratulate you on that. And I wanted to see those of you who were inducted last year, if you could just stand up for a second. So, look at this. So last year was the roast of Coach Gritz. Coach Gritzmacher and his wife Carolyn are really dear to us. They're Sarah's godparents. And I think I should just cover this right now. When our family was having trouble, when Sherm and I were in high school, our parents divorced, and it was tough. And there was a point where Mr. and Mrs. Gritz just took me into their house, and I think Marty and Paul, they were on twin beds. I slept on the floor, and then we would play Nerf basketball all night. And then I saw what a real faithful father was about from him. And Mrs. Gritz would always make us sit down at these big meals, and she would fill up my plate, and all the food was at the table. She had all these dishes with all the hot food in it, and so I'd be totally stuffed, and then she would load up the plate again, and I had to eat all that food. So I don't know if she was trying to fatten me up, but we'd go to bed at night, and I would tell those boys, I said, you have no idea the kind of parents you have. They're really terrific. And Bob was one of the first guys that was kind of like my father figure. And later it was Paul Westphal. It was really 2 remarkable people. So I just thank you for that, Bob and Carolyn. And for those that, not only was Sherm in the first year, he's the #1 first ever inducted into the Hall of Fame. So he'll always be the answer to that trivia question, I guess. Yeah. And then Dan Johnson, President Dr. Daniel Johnson, as I like to call him, longtime friend. The funny thing about Dan and I is we became better friends after high school. So he was a year ahead of me and was a great quarterback. And he has gone on to be a great leader. He knows about leadership. He knows about sacrificing for others. And so it's great to have him here as well. And then I was thinking it's cool to get inducted with Callie. I met her when she was in kindergarten. And she went to school with William and Bethany and Janie and Sarah. And Tyler and all of them we were all hanging out all the time. And to watch her develop and all the work you put in and where you got to is really terrific. I'm proud of you. Mr. Tech, I can't, that's all I can call you. I can't call you. Mr. Tech, this isn't an insult, but you were a better teacher. You were a great teacher. And you taught us, I remember in speech, to be an active listener, to anticipate what the speaker was going to say. And I was doing that while he was talking, and I kept anticipating that he was going to say I was the greatest basketball player he ever coached. But he didn't do that. And to see your boys here, who I grew up with, supporting you. I used to go over it's awful. I would take the bus to go to St. Thomas to do a confirmation class, which was brutal with Pastor Meyer. And the techs used to feed me, not 2 plates, just 1 plate for dinner. And Paul and Dan and I would hang out and play, and it was fun. It was fun. ALA, as you can see, when you hear all that, it's lifelong friends. When I met Amy, we were freshmen, and I don't know if it was at the end of the year. I think it was. She had this autograph book, and I wrote, "I love you" in it. Look at my mom. I never told my mom that story, so. Oh, that's funny. So Doug's already mentioned all these things, about winning and the titles and stuff that we did, but you don't really win without teammates. And there was a few guys that I was thinking about, like Sherm and Jeff Zwick, Scott Radke, Dan, John Burke, Kenny Menser, Steve Nessero, Jim Myers, Duffy Huffman, Barney Singh, Paul Tech. You don't win without teammates, and especially in basketball because it's smaller. I always thought you needed a running mate, right? And my running mate was Paul Gritzmacher. So at the drop of a hat, if there was a ball rolled out, he and I would play, And then we would try to play Sherm and Marty, his older brother, 2-on-2, and we'd play games to 100. 2-on-2, playing all night long, and we always thought someday we would beat them. But they helped us set goals, though. They did. They gave us goals that we tried to do a little more than they had done. People learn. Oh, I left something out. I did want to say my mom she did so many things to help our family survive. And when you're living high on the hog and you go broke, and you started broke to begin with, and you go through that arc that we did as a family, and your dad leaves you, these men in your life that God puts in your path make a huge impact. So if you ever run into somebody that's hurting, a kid especially, and you can help them, it does change their life. And seeing, my nephews now who live with us, we just filed to adopt them. And yeah. And their life is changing. It's changing so much. You wouldn't even believe it, the stories I could tell you. So what Mom did, I don't know how we got through it. I remember my senior year paying our rent. Where I took the money out of my savings account to pay rent. And that's all we had. And so like what Seth was talking about, there's little things that make a huge difference to people. And the Gritzmachers did that for me. So some of the things I learned from all of this, and I think I should just read it, that I've used later on in life. You know, people learn in different ways, right? And for me, the sports were helpful, and I learned how to compete. But it really wasn't about achievement. It was really about testing your limits and growing. It's the pursuit of excellence instead of perfection, that you can learn from your mistakes and you can constantly improve. There's always another day to do that. It's being humble and being coachable. I mean, the greatest athletes and the greatest leaders all have coaches, right? And Doug, I got to say, I know you've formed this Hall of Fame and you're running the Hall of Fame kind of, but I really think you should already be in it. And I do, I really mean that. So it's important to prepare to master your area of expertise, whatever it is, whatever field you're in, because opportunity happens when, or success happens when opportunity meets preparations. I don't know who said that. It was probably a coach, right? And preparing matters, you know. I should have prepared better for this speech. But one of the things I like in business is taking things I learned about technique and mastering your discipline, whatever it was. And so like one of the things that's helped me in business a lot is eliminating wasted motion. You know, great athletes have great footwork. They're in the right place at the right time. And when you do that in a business, you get handsomely rewarded for that. And I think a lot of people miss that about how important it is to focus on your technique and right where you're at right at that moment and make the best of it and prepare. And then when you lose your job, you can start a business. And one of the things that Amy and I did that we worked hard on was trying to stay out of debt. And that's some advice I would give the kids today is like do everything you can, be ruthless about staying out of debt. Because when your opportunity arises, you can do it. And it might be a bad day. It might be the day that you lost your job. And that's what happened to us. Competition, it helps you develop leadership. It's about communicating clearly in the moment of chaos. You know, trying to get your basketball team on the floor when everybody's screaming and we got to do something and we're down. When we won that title, the game before that, the semifinal game, we were down 16 points at the end of the third quarter, and we came back to win that game. And in my memory, and I think it's true, I made 8 for 8 field goals in that fourth quarter, and but that would have only tied the game, right? So there was other guys getting rebounds and fighting, and Paul playing defense, but treating your competitors with respect. We were facing off against the same top kids every year. You got to know them, and we looked forward to competing against each other. It wasn't ugly. It was really beautiful. And then in business, Sherm can attest to this. We have a ton of friends that we have to battle with all the time, and then we can look at each other and have a terrific time. They become friends. So that's a different kind of competition, right? It's beautiful that way. So if I could go back in time, I would say to all of us, take more chances. It's okay to make mistakes. And when you're a Christian, you know how the game ends, right? The game of life. You know how it ends. You know who wins. We win. And that's something that I think is unique about being a Christian in this culture, in this community, is that we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to be afraid. And so I thought it might be good tonight or today to just close with the same verse that I read last night. It's Galatians 5:22 and 23, which this is how you win. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against those things there are no law. So I would say go out and do as much of that as you can. So thank you. Yeah.
I sense a common theme here. The common theme that I see all the time in athletics And you guys just articulated it so well, all of you. And I think really from two different sides. So some of you are a little bit younger, and your appreciation at this point is mostly for your coaches and all the things that they did for you, and all the people that made a difference in your life. And those of us who are a little older know that we have an opportunity that we can think that about our time, but also the experiences we now have in doing that for other people. And I think it's awesome that there's that theme of how someone cared about you is the thing that made a difference in your life. And that's what I love about athletics. And I especially love that about ALA. And we are far from perfect, because the devil's alive and well at ALA. But when I look at the students that we have and the teachers, and I look at our history over the last 30 years, and I see so many people who have given so much of themselves for other people and to make their lives better. And that's why days like today are really cool for me. I appreciate your patience, but I also appreciate the fact that so many of you are here to support the people that you love, that you care about, that matter to you and make a difference in your life. Because that's what we want to keep doing at ALA, is we want to keep having people say, it's a great experience to have people who cared about me and loved me at our school. So my encouragement to you is, if you know someone who you think deserves to be up here next year, you have an opportunity to nominate. We will take nominations up until April next year, and then we'll get our timeline. And we're going to do it at homecoming again next year. We think it worked really well. And it was, many of you were there, but Friday night was the biggest group of people I've ever seen at ALA homecoming. It was awesome. So many alumni, so many families, our own school growing. It's just a great thing to see. And the more we can do of this to celebrate all that God has done through our school, the more happy I am. So again, I am just so grateful. There is a garbage in the back. There wasn't one right in the very front, but grateful for all of you and your time here today and everything our committee has done. And I can't wait to do this again next year. So thank you very much for being here today.